The group that's on this call, I don't need to convince that we are now in the digital era. This was something that we were moving towards long before we ever heard the word COVID, but it's really only kind of accelerated this move into the digital first economy. And instead of thinking of every business as a digital business, that means that the app and the digital experiences that they're providing is now the value proposition. I mean, even the post office has an app now, everyone. I mean, we're in new territory that's constantly evolving. The app is the storefront of the 21st century. And given the ongoing challenges with COVID and the pandemic, this is now often the only vehicle through which businesses can deliver products and services to consumers. And so no matter the industry, every major vertical is increasingly starting to focus on the ability to give their customers access to goods and services via applications, whether that's web or mobile, right? We have banking going completely online through mobile apps. I know I live inside my banking app to do all of my, for all my financial needs. Healthcare is reinventing itself to be mobile first, One Medical being an example here. And obviously we're all here from the media and telecoms industry. You probably know this better than anyone else, being able to provide a similar flawless experience across any channel, whether that's web, whether that's mobile, whether that's IoT. I gave the nod there to Netflix because we will have a speaker from Netflix later on in this session, but this goes across the industry. I think media is probably more aware of this than any other vertical. But no matter what, all of these brands across every vertical really recognize that the app is the value proposition and that the experience that you're providing to your users in the digital realm can make or break your brand. But it's not just about, build it and they will come. It's not just about if you have an app, then we're good to go. In order to excel, you have to deliver what we at Saucelabs call digital confidence. And so what exactly is that? You're going to hear that term a lot, both in my talk and maybe in Marcus's talk as well. What is that? What is the difference between organizations that have digital confidence and who don't? What are some of the key traits? So digital confidence is three key things for us. First and foremost, it's the feeling that in your organization that you are creating and delivering the best possible user experience to your customers. You ship and deliver applications at a fast pace, knowing that those applications look, function, and perform exactly as intended before your customers ever interact with them. And then most importantly, it means that your customers have no doubt that your web and mobile applications will work flawlessly and deliver a delightful experience every single time they use them with no exceptions, right? It's kind of a trickle down effect. The confidence that you create internally at your organization and your applications is then passed on to those customers. And so companies that know they're delivering that user experience that's just as good as that their customers expect it to be, these are digitally confident organizations that move to release these experiences more quickly with more innovation and more features that their customers will move just as quickly and confidently to use them, right? So it's a bit of a symbiotic relationship there. And so why does this matter, right? There's the positivity of creating that confidence among your user base. What happens when the opposite happens? When you aren't able to deliver that confidence to your users and provide that flawless application experience? And I think we all resonate with this, not just as creators of these digital experiences, but as consumers of digital experiences. We all use apps in our everyday lives. And we know that the impact of the user experience on our side has some pretty negative effects. But in case you need some convincing, here's some data from some third-party research firms. And the TLDR version here, the too long didn't read, was that customers do not tolerate poor user experiences. And that not only affects the short term of that customer's value to your business, but it affects long-term business expectations and goals. So I'll throw a couple out here. McKinsey & Company reporting that 25% of customers will abandon a brand just after one bad experience, right? Think about it, one slow page load, one wonky checkout, or one wonky button to click into an article or something. And they're gonna go find somewhere else to take their eyeballs or take their business. But then on the positive side, the Harvard Business Review says that if you can provide those quality experiences, customers who have the best past experience online spend 140% more than customers who had the poorest past experience. So think about the earning potential of your users. If you can provide those experiences, you create repeat loyal business or eyeballs that can provide reliable revenue for your business. And so with that in mind, kind of seeing the importance of digital confidence and how we help achieve, how Saucelabs helps you achieve that. It's baked into our mission, right? This is our mission statement, that we want to create a world of digital confidence. We want businesses to have complete confidence that their digital applications will work flawlessly every single time they're used. And we want them to be able to pass that confidence onto their customers, right? And so how we do that is through a number of key major differentiators that we believe we possess in what's becoming a very crowded market. We'll get into the technology in just a second. And again, we think it's second to none. But really, some of what's our real unique differentiators are in these 5 points here. The first is the commitment to open source. Those who are familiar with Sauce know that we were co-founded by the creator of Selenium, one of the co-creators of Appium. It is our past, it is our present, and it is our future. We are deeply rooted in open source, and not just in these 2 projects, but we've since expanded to really start gaining footholds in other open source communities. We understand the importance of open source in testing, and we're committed to extending our contribution and our influence, most notably through our open source program office under the direction of our CTO, which was established earlier this year. So we don't just talk the talk when it comes to open source, we definitely walk the walk. Because we essentially defined this market category, cloud-based test execution, 10 plus years ago, we've developed a large set of a brain trust of experts who have been previous Sauce users, who have been at Sauce a long time, who've been in testing a long time. This team, led by Marcus, who you'll meet later today, are some of the world's most accomplished automated testing experts, and we put them to work every day for our customers to help them see the success that we know you can have with continuous testing and automation. Over those 10 years, we've compiled the largest data set around quality and testing that no other vendor can compare to. We've run over 3 billion tests today on our platform over the past 11 years. And we believe we are uniquely positioned to leverage that data to drive the kind of the analytic insights, the AI-driven technologies that are really forging the path to the future for quality. And I think we're best positioned to deliver on that more than anyone else in the space. And finally, the last 2, I think, are my favorite. Just as someone who's talked with a lot of customers over the years, really the passion that we feel for our customers and the desire we feel to go with them on their journey towards continuous testing and automation. We're not just going to give you the keys to the Ferrari and say good luck. We're going to really partner with you to understand your goals via our customer success managers, via our solutions architects, Marcus's team, as I just mentioned. We provide the resources, the support, the expertise when you need it on your journey. And then beyond that, we've created one of the greatest testing user communities I've seen out there. Those of you who have ever been to a SauceCon, events like this are a great example. We are committed to creating a community that's not just centered around Sauce, but really centered around our users who go out of their way to help support each other. And then that's really that's one of the special things that I love most about Sauce. Okay, so that all sounds great, right? But how do we actually get it done? What is the product? We call our solution the Saucelabs Continuous Testing Cloud. I don't know why the title isn't on the top there, but it'll show up eventually. The way I'm going to build this is from the bottom up, so you can kind of see what the base of our platform is and kind of how we're adding on to it through additional functionality. So first and foremost, Sauce made its name and kind of got our foothold as being the most scalable and comprehensive test infrastructure in the industry. Our continuous testing cloud spans thousands of browsers and operating systems, mobile emulators and simulators, real physical devices, and public and private clouds, essentially providing you immediate access to the infrastructure you need to execute automated or manual tests at scale. This again provides that coverage that is kind of the bedrock of digital confidence. Does your application work for every user, for every combination? And we provide that confidence through the coverage and the scalability of our platform. But for us, it's obviously not just about being able to run those tests, being able to understand when something does go wrong, where are the issues and how can I quickly pinpoint and resolve failures. And so we have a whole host of productivity tools on the platform, both on the web and mobile side, that help development and QA teams be productive, whether it's our test analytics to help understand testing at a high level, whether it's individual videos and screenshots of every test to do pinpoint-to-pinpoint debugging, and then additional features that allow for real-time understanding of the quality of your applications. I mentioned Selenium and Appium earlier as being kind of our core technologies. We've since expanded, but that kind of gives you a point that we really got our space in the functional testing realm of quality. But again, digital confidence isn't just about the application. Does the application work? It's also about, does it perform and does it look good as well? And so that's why we've since in the past year and a half, we've really started making footholds in a couple other areas of the testing pipeline, so to speak. And that includes the support for front-end performance testing, as well as support for visual. I'm going to get into a little bit more of what that means, but think of it as we're now expanding our reach beyond the functional and really providing more visibility into that whole 360-degree user experience. And obviously, this is all wrapped in our enterprise security and support. And what do we call that again? The Saucelabs Continuous Testing Cloud. That's a fun animation, but that's pretty much us in a nutshell. So with that in mind, you've made it halfway through this talk. Congratulations, you're still here. What's new for Sauce? What's next? I imagine there are a lot of you on this call who are Sauce users, or at least familiar with Sauce and what we provide. The testing market is changing, and we need to be able to change and modernize with it. And I'm super excited for kind of where we're taking the product based on some industry data that we're seeing. And so this is actually the part of the presentation I like the most, is kind of where are we taking all this? So before we dive back into the product, let's take a step back again and let's talk about some big market dynamics that I see that are really driving the future of test. The first shouldn't be a surprise to anyone here on the call. Release velocity is accelerating. Agile, DevOps, CI/CD, all of these mechanisms have really started putting stress and demand on the way teams develop software. And testing still lags behind as kind of being the major bottleneck for teams really achieving that release speed that they really want, right? We want to release, not monthly, not bi-weekly. We want to release daily. We want to release on demand with every commit. And so this stat comes from the 2019 Global Developer Report from GitLab. And anyone who's followed this report over the years like I have, this is an answer to the question developers were asked, what is the #1 bottleneck preventing you from achieving true CI/CD? And testing wins this question every single year, and by a lot. So there's still this need to provide more confidence in quality and speed up testing in such a way that doesn't sacrifice quality. And you'll see this is starting to become an issue, not just for testers, but everyone involved in the software delivery lifecycle. Testing shifting left and right. This is a really big topic for us. I was actually just talking to someone about this, but and we'll get a little bit more into what that means, but essentially testing, this idea of continuous testing, providing quality checks as a gatekeeper between every step of the software development lifecycle, really requires that we rethink our quality strategy, both as we shift it left closer to the developer and as we shift it right more into production. There are new personas that are embracing quality at scale. There are new frameworks and tools that are emerging, and there's new types of signals of quality that are being created throughout the pipeline. And so how can we, as a vendor that was focused on just a single point area in the pipeline, how can we expand the view of our platform and what we can provide to help bring more people together to provide a more holistic view of quality? And then finally, a really interesting one. This is, I think, another nod to shift right. And if you let Marcus talk about this topic, he could talk for hours, is this idea of confidence in production. Gone are the days where we, truly just become very reactive to issues in production. And now, as the delivery cycle starts to speed up, we're seeing production as a proving ground for business experimentation, for constant monitoring and being able to roll back when necessary, constantly looking for issues before the users find them. To help mitigate a certain risk factor that decreases digital confidence. How can we provide more checks within that production environment to enable businesses not just to become more proactive in point bugs, but also in really providing that proving ground for additional experimentation, right? You think of feature flags here, for example, or production monitoring tools. There's a lot of exciting stuff in the realm of production. So there are a couple of different problems that we're currently thinking about here, but we think about the software delivery pipeline, and that infinity loop that I had on the previous slide is still my favorite kind of way to think about how testing kind of is positioned inside of that life cycle. But testing is shifting left, and it's also shifting right. As I mentioned before, there are new personas that are really starting to dig into testing at scale and understand how they can contribute to the quality of user experiences at every stage in the pipeline. And there's obviously no surprise here that the market, the DevOps market, is responding to that need. And there's been an explosion of tools to help with this. And just think on the development side, right? There are a number of development tools that are helping solve these problems of different, functional silos and things like that. And GitLab and GitHub are trying to do a great job of kind of centralizing those tools for development, but no one's really doing it for tests. And let me just give you an example here. Oops, there we go. So think about let's abstract away testing from the pipeline and think about what a testing pipeline would look like, right? You have development and mostly development, doing a lot of static code analysis, doing local unit tests, maybe doing component tests as well in isolation before committing to a master branch. They might want to do some visual component tests. They might look at security. They're looking at analytics, right? They have their own kind of quality checkpoints that they want to incorporate into their workflow. There's obviously QA, and it's very traditional, there's your functional tests, there's the occasional live or manual test, there's API tests that have kind of traditionally sat in the middle of the pipeline. But now you also have ops and production really involved in the testing equation, with error reporting, with journey monitoring, with production monitoring. And so you kind of think about it, we used to talk about the dev QA silo of testing, where dev just wasn't concerned with testing and QA had all the responsibility. And now all of a sudden we see these three quality silos start to emerge. And it creates a whole host of problems. And let me just further visualize this for you here on this. So I've taken that idea of development test, integration or QA test, and then production test kind of in their three little circles, right? My very, very rudimentary pipeline. But think about all of and obviously you have, like I mentioned, source control, CI tools that are trying to bring everything together from a development perspective, but testing still exists outside of these control mechanisms. And so now think about it. Think about all the frameworks and all of the tools that developers have come to know and love to solve their point problems within quality. Think about all the tools and frameworks that QA have come to know and love. Obvious nod to our own solution that we think is really, really swell. And then production, again, they all have their own tools. They all have their own methodology, their own goals with testing that don't necessarily line up potentially with what QA or what development is doing. But what they're all doing is they're all creating quality signal. And all those quality signals are important. But the fact of the matter is that they're all in silos. And so imagine someone who's enterprising within this organization and says, you know what, I'm a developer. What's QA been up to? What sort of signal or what sort of results are they seeing from their quality initiative? Or I want to go see what production is doing. Let me try and connect these dots. Oh gosh, sorry everyone. I hope everyone can still see that. So if they go try and connect these dots, now all of a sudden you can kind of imagine the web that we start to weave here. And how problematic this can be. We're creating a bigger problem by trying to unify and create that holistic view of quality. And what does that mean in the end? It means that quality, which is really an act of risk mitigation, becomes increasingly difficult from a holistic perspective. No one has a complete picture into the health of the applications that they're building. So what does the solution look like in Saucelabs' mind? Like, how do we take this idea, this problem, and start to simplify it and create a solution? So Saucelabs is one of the first vendors in our space to talk about the need to break down the dev QA silo. But now we're really starting to shift that focus as a company. And we're now looking at those quality silos that I illustrated in the previous slide. And our goal is to unify test signal across the pipeline to create a single view of all quality signals, no matter where you are in the software development lifecycle. We're evolving the vision of our product that's beyond a point of just, here's your infrastructure, right? Here's just something to run your tests against. We instead are looking now towards the future of becoming a framework agnostic solution, a platform agnostic solution to help support these different personas, these different languages, and become a more flexible solution for every stage, for every person involved in the software development lifecycle. Again, this means framework agnosticism. So again, we used to just play with Selenium and Appium. You'll see in these next slides that we've since expanded our support for other solutions. Broadening our ecosystem to include plugins to some of these other products that I mentioned in the previous slide. And this also means exploring the idea that you don't have to just run the tests in our cloud anymore. You can run tests locally. You can run tests on your own infrastructure. Whatever you need to help achieve your speed and scale goals, Saucelabs is there to provide the platform that allows you to unify those test signals. So beyond execution, we believe that now our platform is going to be best situated to help deliver on the promise of quality visibility and optimization. So by unifying all test results or quality signals, as we're starting to call them, into one platform, we can help provide tools that allow teams to collaborate, share and view results. And then we can take all of that data and provide, using machine learning techniques, using a lot of the modeling that we've kind of learned over the 3 billion tests we've run on our platform, we can now give very rich data insights to help teams test better and continuously improve. And so that way your teams are feeling very confident that we're answering the 3 key questions that are in this slide right here. Developers can answer the question, is my code good? QA can answer, does the product work? And production and ops ops and maybe even a product persona or marketing persona can really understand how users are interacting with the application. That's full visibility into quality, and that's the building block of digital confidence for any organization in any vertical. So how does this translate to our roadmap? What are some things that we're working on now? You're like, Alissa, this is all great. What are you doing about it? So we have 4 priorities in our 2020 roadmap that we believe we've delivered on in a number of different ways. And I'll focus on 3 of them, but I'll let you know all 4 right off the bat. The first is just the ability to provide an always-on platform. We understand that we can't deliver on this vision of unified quality without ensuring our platform is always available to our users and that it's instantly scalable. So our team has been working to achieve a target of a 3 nines uptime, 99.9, not just support our customers, but also to help in building the foundations for these other enhancements that I'm going to go through next. I won't dig into this one too much more, except to say that we've been consistently at 3 nines, I think for the past number of months, thanks to the work of our engineering organization. So we're super excited to be able to deliver on this. This is going to be a constant area of growth for us. It's something we know is super important. The next 3 are really the big ones that I want to focus in on. The first is expanding that reach throughout the pipeline. And we're really focusing in on that shift left first. So expanding test coverage for the developer. So there are a number of ways that we're going to expand the value of our platform with features that appeal to developers. And you'll see that in just a second. Unifying quality signals. I feel like I'm using this phrase all the time in every meeting. Every time I get a microphone, I talk about quality signal. But it's super important. And we've taken a lot of really big steps to kind of show how we're laying that groundwork to be able to start incorporating even more test signal into the Sauce platform. Because then that leads into a lot of what's happening on the 4th roadmap item, which is how do we take all that signal, all that data, and use machine learning and other technologies to help deliver insights to help teams test better. So like I mentioned, I'm going to focus on 2 through 4 now for the rest of the presentation. I have a couple slides for each. Let's start with expanding testing to developers, and that's the launch of our Test Runner Toolkit, which is super exciting. This came out around SauceCon, so back in, I believe it was May. And so what Sauce Test Runner Toolkit is it's a containerized, or it's a solution that essentially allows for simplifying both the setup and test execution specifically for developers. We support a number of new open source frameworks with this solution, and it really helps developers run more end-to-end web tests earlier in the pipeline. And so let me run you through this schematic from left to right. So Test Runner Toolkit is essentially a package that you can call using sauce control from your command line. And what the toolkit does is it ships you support for browsers, both headless Chrome and Firefox. So think back to our headless solution for anyone who remembers that. So we're repurposing that into this. It also provides support for new automation tools. This includes Cypress, Puppeteer, Playwright, and Test Cafe. Yes, you heard that right. You can run all 4 of those tests now and get the results posted to Saucelabs. And also provides support for frameworks. Today, as of today, on November 4th, 2020, developers get those assets and they have 2 options right now of how to execute those tests. They can run them locally on their own machine, or they can run them through the infrastructure that currently exists within their CI/CD pipeline. So whatever they have on Jenkins or Bamboo or whatever their CI server looks like, they can run through that infrastructure as well. No matter how they run those tests, all results are posted to Saucelabs. And what this means is now those tests from the developers are now unified with any tests that the QA team is running as well. They have access to all of the debugging features that they would have access to if the tests were run in Selenium or Appium. That includes screenshots, videos, logs, etc. And then more importantly, like I said, it's unified with those other test results. So now they can leverage insights and analytics. So now again, thinking about unifying all those test signals together. Coming really soon, hopefully early next year is what we're targeting. We'll also add support for Sauce VMs. So developers will also have the option to execute those tests across all the different options that are available within Saucelabs infrastructure. So they can take advantage of that as well. So this is an exciting kind of development for, again, providing the tools and the resources that other personas or other groups in your organization might need to run tests while at the same time unifying quality signals. Speaking of unifying quality signals, there are a couple of really cool developments in the Saucelabs platform. And I think this first one is really gonna make anyone on the line who's a current Sauce customer super excited. And that's the fact that we now have real device testing now available natively in Saucelabs. Those of you who've been around a while, remember a number of years back, we acquired a company out of Germany called Test Object for real device testing. And for a number of years, we had those 2 entities separate. So if you wanted to do real device testing, all those test results lived in a different interface, and we're kind of on a separate platform. We are now super excited to report that most of the features that you've come to know and love on Test Object are now available directly within Saucelabs. This includes the ability to automate tests using Selenium or Appium, the ability to kick off a live or manual test in a mobile real device, the ability to use Sauce Connect, our proxy tunneling tool, and the ability to leverage app storage. All are available now in Saucelabs. You don't have to toggle between either of those. Coming up really soon is native framework support inside of Sauce. So Espresso and XDUI test support is coming hopefully this quarter. And there's still some live testing features that aren't quite available yet on Sauce. So if anyone's used the virtual USB feature before, we're still working on adding that right now. The team is working on it. But it's super exciting because what this means is that all the results now live in one place, right? Unifying quality signals. I know you guys are getting sick of that. So I think I won't beat that horse any longer. Another way we're unifying quality signals is through the addition of Sauce Visual. I mentioned this in our product slide. We acquired a visual testing company called Screener about a year and a half ago now. Essentially, it was an addition to, again, provide that extra visibility into the 360-degree user experience. And a year ago, when we acquired Screener, we launched our visual component testing solution, which is on the left there. That's available now for all users. And this allows for developers to do visual tests on visual components in isolation through a native integration to Storybook, which is an open source tool for developing UI components in isolation. And so there is no need for developers to write any automated test scripts if they are using React, Vue, or Angular to test components. They'll automatically detect and highlight visual regressions while those tests are running at the same time using a kind of a hybrid diff, smart hybrid diff technology. So they compare a screenshot of both a baseline screenshot and also a DOM snapshot of visual tests to a baseline, and then quickly see from two perspectives exactly what those changes were. What's coming up really soon is the addition of visual end-to-end testing within that platform. It's currently in a closed beta with about 12 customers, and initial results are super positive. And what this allows is for QA and testers to integrate visual checks into existing WebDriver tests that they would use for functional checks. So they can perform automated visual testing across all the different browsers, all the different screen resolutions, et cetera. So again, providing a more holistic solution to really not just provide visual coverage at different points in the pipeline, a development and then an integration, but then also being able to take those visual test results and let's unify them with the functional test results. Let's unify them with the front-end performance results. Let's provide that really holistic view of quality for the entire organization, not just for testers, not just for developers, for everyone. All right, and finally, we're putting more test signal into Sauce. We're really trying to become more inclusive of the different types of quality that we want to have on our platform. How are we going to use that data to give you real actionable insights to test better? And we've done a lot of work on insights this year and adding new reports and new views to kind of slice and dice your own test data. But the one I'm really most excited about was the introduction of failure analysis, which happened earlier this year. And this was the product of our data science team, who did an analysis on a subset of customer data to understand their failures and why tests were failing. And they found that out of a certain subset of failures within a customer's data, the tests were failing, 80% of the tests were failing for the exact same reason. And so it's suffice to say, if we have customers who are experiencing low pass rates and they have a large number of failures, can we use the algorithms that the team developed in this analysis to provide the same sort of insights to our customers so they can understand, out of my aggregate of failures, how many of them are occurring for the exact same reason and how pervasive is that issue or that failure pattern throughout the rest of my test suite. And so the schematic on the right, I think, really kind of expresses it best. So let's say I have 100,000 tests, and out of those 100,000, 25% or 25,000 of them fail at any given time. What failure analysis does is it uses machine learning algorithm to analyze the Selenium or Appium logs of those tests and starts to look for what our technology calls failure patterns, or typical reasons why tests fail. And then what that algorithm does is separate all those failure patterns out and then starts aggregating them based on how often they're occurring. And so for this example of 25,000 failures, you'll see the FP, or failure pattern. 50% of those tests are all failing for the exact same reason in failure pattern 1. Imagine if I understood what that failure pattern was by going into the test and understanding, oh, there's the issue right there, and then making that change across the rest of the test suite. I now all of a sudden have increased my pass rate massively. And so this allows developers or QA, whoever's responsible, to really use that empirical data to understand where the failures are occurring, resolve them more quickly, and then improve those pass rates to really, again, improve the testing practice as a whole. So super exciting. Failure analysis is actually available today for every enterprise or contract customer of Saucelabs. It's not available on our self-service plans just yet. But anyone who has a Saucelabs contract has the ability to take advantage of failure analysis. If you're interested in learning more about this, I will be available for the rest of the day and can answer questions on Slack or Zoom Q&A, whatever you guys are working with right now. So that's it for me. I promised that I would leave time for questions, but shocker, I love to talk. We're right up against time. Susie, I don't know if we had any questions that we wanted to cover real quick, or if we should just move along here.
Sure, thank you, Alissa. We have a couple of quick questions about what languages are supported with Sauce Visual in the chat here. One just asking if we support Sauce Visual for other languages, and then another asking about the visual end-to-end feature and any possible integration or use with Java. So you can see those in more detail here in the chat, but that might be a good one to touch on.
Yeah, so Sauce Visual for the component side, essentially it works through the Storybook integration. So I think I mentioned this, if you're writing tests, if you're using either React, Vue, or Angular for testing, then that's what we support today. So you'd be able to run those tests. As far as end-to-end, right now the support, it will be through Selenium and through WebDriver, WebDriver IO. So essentially you can use frameworks through Java, like I believe Mocha is one, or Jasmine, that would then connect. So you should be able to use Java to run tests in Sauce Visual, but I can check with the visual team real quick on Slack and see if they say anything different. It's a good question.
Great, thank you for that, Alissa. And since we are right up against time, I know I see other questions here in the chat, but let's follow up with you all in writing. Keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A. We will reply to you there, but just to keep us on track for the agenda, Alissa, I'll turn over to you to keep us moving.